It was a quiet night shift at the gas station, and I had just stepped outside to take out the trash. The cool air was refreshing, and the night sky was filled with stars. I tossed the garbage bag into the dumpster, and as I turned to head back inside, I was suddenly surrounded by people and cars that hadn't been there just a moment ago. It was like they had materialized out of thin air, right behind me. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but as the people and cars continued to spawn in front of me, I realized something was very wrong. As the shift was about to end, I shrugged it off because I wanted to go home. I continued with my work, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that lingered in my mind. The glitch in the Matrix had left me with a sense of foreboding, like something was off-kilter in the world around me. As I counted the cash in the register, I couldn't help but glance out the window, half expecting to see the glitch reappear. But the night was quiet and still, with no sign of the strange and unsettling phenomenon. I finished my shift and headed out to my car, eager to get home and forget about the glitch. But as I turned the key in the ignition, my car wouldn't start. I tried again and again, but the engine refused to turn over. Frustrated and exhausted, I leaned back in my seat, wondering what could be wrong with my car. And then, just as suddenly as the glitch had appeared earlier, the car sprang to life. The engine roared to life, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. It was like the glitch was still there, lurking in the shadows and waiting to strike. I drove home, my heart racing and my mind filled with fear and uncertainty. For days afterwards, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. The glitch had left a mark on me, a haunting reminder that the world was not always what it seemed. As a lover of the great outdoors, I often spend my weekends hiking and exploring the local woods and forests. I was walking along a familiar path, admiring the lush greenery and listening to the sound of birds singing in the trees. But then, I noticed something strange in the distance, a tree that seemed out of place. It was tall and majestic, with sprawling branches that reached towards the sky, but there was something about it that didn't quite fit with the rest of the forest. It was like it had been dropped there from another world, a foreign and mysterious presence in the midst of familiar surroundings. I couldn't resist the pull of curiosity, and so I ventured closer to the tree. As I got closer, I realized that it was unlike any tree I'd ever seen before. The bark was rough and jagged, and the branches seemed to stretch out like fingers, beckoning me closer. Without really thinking, I reached out to touch the tree. Felt surprisingly normal, but it was as if I could feel a presence from within. Suddenly, a chill ran down my spine. The air around me felt thick and heavy, and I could sense that something was off. The wind had died down, and the rustling of leaves had ceased. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. And then I heard it, a faint whisper, almost too quiet to hear. It was a voice that seemed to come from within the tree, and it spoke in a language that was unfamiliar to me. I couldn't make out what it was saying. I ran away from the tree. My whole body told me something about all this was just not right, and to this day I do not regret it. I had known Sarah since we were in grade school. We had always been the best of friends, and even though we had gone to different colleges, we had managed to stay in touch. But something changed after she graduated. Whenever we talked on the phone, I noticed that she seemed distant and disconnected. It was like she was going through the motions of a conversation, but her heart wasn't in it. She never seemed to have anything new or interesting to say, and her tone was always flat and monotone. It was like talking to an NPC in a video game, and it made me uneasy. But I tried not to read too much into it. Maybe she was just going through a tough time, I thought. But then came the incident that made me realize something was seriously wrong. We had made plans to meet up for dinner at a restaurant in town. When I arrived, Sarah was already there, but she was acting very strange. She barely spoke, and when she did, monotone voice. She hardly ate anything, and her eyes seemed glazed over, like she was staring at something far away. It was like she was there physically, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. I remember coming back from the bathroom after, and she would stare with a blank expression further into the restaurant, like she wasn't even there. I'm not talking about being spaced out even, this was beyond that. I tried to ask her what was wrong, but she didn't respond. It was like she didn't even hear me. It was all so bizarre and unsettling, and I couldn't help but feel like I was talking to a shell of my once vibrant friend. After that night, I started to distance myself from Sarah. It was too unnerving to be around her when she was acting like that. I tried to get in touch with her a few times afterwards, but she never answered my calls or responded to my texts. I would, however, check her social media sometimes, and to my surprise, I would see her happy and excited, filled with emotions. It really caught me off guard, as it seemed to be another person, but it was her. I know people do fake their online personality, but again, this was beyond what I normally see out there. It feels like she either got cloned or lost her soul completely. Whatever it is, I'm not going to attempt to contact her again. I'd always been fascinated by dreams, and the idea that they could hold clues to the mysteries of the universe. I had spent many nights poring over dream journals and trying to decipher their hidden meanings. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened one fateful day. It started like any other day. I woke up early, got dressed, and headed off to work. But as I was walking down the street, something caught my eye. It was a small wooden figurine that looked just like something I had seen in a dream the night before. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. Maybe I had seen the figurine somewhere before, and it had lodged itself in my subconscious. But as I looked closer, I realized that it was exactly the same as the one from my dream. The same intricate carvings, the same smooth finish. It was like a dream object had suddenly appeared in real life. I picked up the figurine and turned it over in my hands. It was warm to the touch, as if it had just been made. But that was impossible, right? Dream objects weren't supposed to exist in the real world. I tried to shake off the feeling of unease and continued on my way to work. Throughout the day, I couldn't shake the feeling that something strange was happening. I kept thinking about the figurine and how it had appeared in real life, just like in my dream. It was like the lines between my dream world and the real world were blurring together. As the day wore on, I began to feel more and more disconnected from reality. My thoughts were consumed by the dream world and the strange connection I felt to it. I couldn't focus on anything else, and I started to worry that I was losing my grip on reality. When I got home that night, I went straight to my dream journal. I had to figure out what was going on. I flipped through the pages until I found the entry from the night before. I read through it, trying to make sense of the symbols and images that I had recorded. And then I saw it. The wooden figurine. It was there, plain as day, in my dream journal. I couldn't believe it. How could a dream object have appeared in real life and then show up in my dream journal? It was like the dream world was bleeding into the real world and vice versa. That's when I realized that I had stumbled upon something truly incredible. The connection between our dreams and the real world was much deeper than I had ever imagined. Dreams weren't just random images and symbols. They were a window into a hidden realm of existence. I was walking down the street late at night, the city lights casting an eerie glow on the sidewalks. As I turned the corner, I saw a building up ahead that seemed to be losing power. The lights flickered on and off, and for a moment, the entire building was plunged into darkness. I stopped in my tracks, watching as the lights came back on, one by one. But something about the scene seemed off. As the lights flickered, I thought I saw movement in the windows, people moving in strange, jerky motions. I hesitated, wondering if I should investigate. But as I stood there, the lights went out again, and this time they didn't come back on. The building was a tall, imposing structure, with no visible entrance or exit. It seemed abandoned, but the movement in the windows suggested otherwise. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I couldn't look away. I had to know what was going on. I crept closer to the building, trying to get a better look at the windows. As I approached, I saw that there were people inside, but they were moving in a way that was almost robotic. Their movements were stiff and mechanical, like they were being controlled by something else. I tried to call out to them, but my voice was drowned out by the sound of the rain pounding against the pavement. I was starting to feel uneasy, like I had stumbled upon something I wasn't meant to see. And then the lights came back on. But this time they were different. They flickered in patterns, almost like a code. I watched, transfixed, as the patterns became more and more complex. Suddenly, the people in the windows stopped moving. They all turned to face me, their eyes locked onto mine. And then, in unison, they began to move again, out of view. I backed off as I was too weirded out at this point. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon something dangerous, something beyond my understanding. I took a step back, my heart racing, and looked around. I was alone on the street, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I started to walk away from the building, feeling like I had narrowly escaped something, never to return again as I was on a trip with my family, wandering about alone.